So here's I'm going to call it a request video. I mentioned in another video that I could remember past lives stuff, and that was another video. And what video was that? Totally drawing a blank, dude. Been smoking so much weed, my memory's not that good. But so they were like, "Oh, you should do the video on the past lives." I have done a video about past lives remembrance, but it was like 4 years ago, and I think it's cool to do another video of the same subject if it's been like past the statute of limitations 4 years ago or whatever. Yeah, I think it's important to talk about remembering past lives, and so that we can it can just clarify a lot of different things, get rid of a lot of confusion. I think a lot of like thoughts that people have in their head, I think it comes from past lives. For example, so let me just give examples of like my little past life. See, I've had like memories of certain things, just random things, and this is like of all walks of life too. Like one of them is like, and these are ephemeral. These are the memories I've had. Maybe I had that memory once, like when I was 13, and then I remembered having the memory. And so, just as a really quick aside, helping you remember stuff, thinking back and thinking about certain stuff, it opens up banks of information. I was back in '96. I was hiking every day in the mountains, and I'd get up at 4 in the morning and I'd write my dream journal. And I'd write like 4 pages of dream journal. This is back in the days when I could remember my dreams before my brain got too saturated with marijuana. But I would remember dreams that I had when I was like 5 and 6 and stuff that I'd forgotten because I was in dream area, so I was bringing up all these other dreams. And so thinking about past lives and thinking about that kind of stuff, it'll bring up other stuff and other memories. And I think all the things you've done in your past life you can remember, just like you can remember in your life, stuff that happened in this life, a lot of people forget, even if somebody tries to remind them, they just don't remember. But the memory is there somewhere. You just have to find it. And it's the same thing with past lives. The memories are always there. Everything you've ever done, you're going to remember it. And you will remember it and redwell on it at one point in your life, even if you're like when you were pre-human, like when you were a fucking fish. You can remember that. So like memories are just really just small, especially like emotional, that have like some emotion in there. Emotion, it's easier to remember stuff that has more different kinds of data. So like one memory is like the memory of like being on say you're on a trail and you're by yourself and you're going from one town to another and you come across a bunch of bandits in the street. How are you going to defend yourself against them? Well, one way is to be super, super nice and like, because a lot of bandits, they don't really want to mug you, necessarily. Like maybe they want to just hang out with you, but but they're just looking for a reason to not like you and mug you or whatever. So just be excessively nice to them and kiss their ass and be super hospitable to them, and they might let you go. And so that's like a past life memory that I've had. See, that has no reference in this life. I've never been, on the trail from, bumfuck nowhere and come across a bunch of bandits and have to do this kind of stuff. But that's like a memory that I have. Another memories that I have, which freak people out, and, like the whole memory of killing people. When we start remembering our past lives, we're going to remember, and that's going to happen pretty soon. As soon as we start talking about it and believing in reincarnation as a society, we're going to start. It's going to allow us to remember our past lives, and we're all going to be able to remember our past lives easier if we're all remembering our past lives and we're all talking about it. It opens up the flood banks of memory, of knowledge. It's not all your memories; it's also memories of everybody that you can tap into. And so, anyways, once we start remembering our past lives and stuff, we're going to remember, everything. You can't really be like selective on what you're going to remember. You're going to remember all kinds of random stuff. And the fact of the matter is, and anybody who studies history knows this, but the fact of the matter is that in the past, our ancestors were extremely violent and extremely, barbaric, and if you look in history, there was hardly a generation in any country that went by where there wasn't a war. Like everybody like had somebody in their immediate family who like died in a war. Wars were like a regular occurrence. They happened all the time. And like if you watch some of these like historical movies or miniseries or whatever, every episode there's a war. Well, that's how it goes. And so you're going to remember that kind of stuff, dude, because we've all killed people millions of times. We've all been killed by people millions of times. When you go off to war and you're fighting somebody, you have like a 50% chance of killing them or being killed. And so if you're going to remember your past life, you're going to remember that ugly crap in the past. And so you're going to remember killing people. And so if you like have thoughts of killing somebody, it doesn't mean that you're like susceptible to killing somebody. It doesn't mean that you're going to kill somebody or that you're in danger of killing somebody. You're going to snap and freak and kill somebody. All it means is that you're starting to remember your past lives. And so yeah, that's kind of like a memory that I have of like, and remembering past lives and all the emotions and stuff, it'll help you figure out, like why we make the decisions that we've made in the past, political decisions, why we've passed certain laws and it helps us understand stuff. And so as far as like memories of killing people, there's like, like, for example, like this is, we're going back into barbaric times, like when you're hunter-gatherer times. Like rage killing, that happened a lot. And the Germans actually had it figured out pretty well because they were pretty violent. They would have, drunken brawls and maybe one guy would end up dying from it. They had a system called Vergeld where you would just, if you killed somebody, you would just pay their family whatever they were worth, depending on how many kids they had, if they were married and what job they had. And then that was it. There'd be no blood retaliation. There'd be nothing. They had it all figured out. And so they had a, that's how they could have a cohesive society and, something that was even strong enough to defeat Rome. And Rome actually had a German colony called East Germany. It was beyond the Rhine, and they had it for like 30 years. They lost it under Augustus Caesar. But the reason that they lost it is because the Romans were, like whenever a German would do something bad, they'd get crucified. That's what the Romans like to do, crucify people. But that just like humiliated the Germans, made the Germans really angry. They weren't honoring the German tradition of Vergeld. They would just crucify the guy for killing somebody, and it pissed them off, and so they rebelled, and they took that back, and they destroyed 3 German legions and all that. So anyways, that was like a long introduction. But to the whole idea of that rage killing. And so, yeah, I remember those, like getting raging and fucking killing somebody. And that's kind of like when you're doing it, like a lot of people nowadays, you're like, well, they're like, oh, I couldn't do it. Like me, I couldn't kill somebody. I couldn't, unless I got like snapped and I went back into like barbaric mindset. But like when you're doing it at those times, I know what it's like to kill somebody. Not because I've done it in this life or because I'm going to, but because I've had those thoughts a million times. Like killing somebody is, it's fun. It's fun. It makes you feel strong, and you actually enjoy feeling their flesh crumble and all that kind of stuff. It's like fun, which is a weird ass thing to think about. But and the same thing with wars. People don't realize that in the wars in the past, which we've all been involved in a million times, it wasn't like it wasn't like in the movies you shoot somebody and they fall down and they're dead, or you stab somebody and they fall down and they're dead. Back in the good old days, for thousands and hundreds of thousands of years, people would fight each other with, even in Roman times, and even in like the Middle Ages, people would fight each other with like blunt ass, like pitchforks, blunt swords and stuff. Like you'd have to hack somebody 100 times before they lose enough blood to fall down on the ground and put themselves in a situation where you could actually do a death blow to them. It's all, back war in those days was just basically people hacking at each other for a long ass time, like an hour or something, until one of them finally, because these blows weren't strong enough to hurt you. They just cut your flesh a little bit and then you cut. And so Yeah, it's basically those feelings of just hacking and hacking at somebody and just loving to just every time you get some flesh, you just it's a wonderful feeling. It makes you feel strong and all that kind of stuff, and fills you with adrenaline. And war itself is not. If you study history, going to war is was sending a bunch of guys to war was real easy, dude. It was way easier to get a bunch of people to show up for war than it would be to say get a bunch of people to build an aqueduct or something. Because these young kids, they always they want their adventure. They want to go see a new land. They want to kick some ass, and they're like, yeah, sign me up, and they go and even fighting, it's fun. They like killing. I mean, that's how we were in the past. We just hack at you, and then you get hacked apart, and then as you're dying, you kind of, it's like a Valhalla. You're like, oh, now the mercy of the other side. I'm ready for it. And so that whole part is natural. I think now those are now also intrigue. That's another thing that we did in the past a lot. All of the backstabbing and all the politics of the past. I mean, we think politics now has a whole lot of lying and deceit. Holy shit! You should watch some of these movies. Do really good job, and miniseries and stuff. They do really good job of bringing to light. I just saw a miniseries called The White Queen, and they had a bunch of all the intrigue and the lying and deceit. That shit was real. They do a good job of that stuff. That stuff happened all the time, and so I've had past life memories of that kind of stuff. Like, you pretend that you love somebody and that you're. See, I have all the past memories I have are being. Well, most of the past memories I have are being in an aristocracy, in a position of power. I do have a lot of past life memories of being like somebody who's poor, but most of them are the aristocracy. So if you're like in a position of power, you're within the court or whatever, and you want to take somebody out, you plan it. The smart people plan it from the very beginning. You decide you don't like somebody. You pretend that you love them. You make them feel like you're the last person who's danger to them. You act really fake around them. All this kind of stuff, and then you sneak in their room and you kill them one night when they're least expecting it, and nobody knows it was you. That kind of stuff. I have those kinds of memories. I used to do that shit all the time. And also when it happens to you, as you're dying, you're filled with fucking so much rage that you swear that you're going to get revenge on them one day, in the other life or something like that. And that's one reason that we don't live, live and die. And we don't remember our past lives. It's so that we can forgive because we're primitive young souls. We don't understand that whole thing of forgiveness. We would be, if we could remember our past lives, we'd be fucking carrying that whole blood feuding off into other lives, and it would be like constant war, and we'd never advance. We'd destroy the whole planet. So it's good that you remember your past lives. Now, we have all been fucked over a million times, and we've all fucked other people over. I'm sure there's lots of people out there who, if they can remember their past lives, and they could trace that person who fucked them over, and they remembered that the reincarnation of them was me, holy shit, I'd be in trouble. But it goes the other way around. There's people who I owe fucking vengeance to. But we'll never know until we remember our past lives. But by the time we remember our past lives, we will be, advanced enough by then to be able to remember actually getting fucked over and killed by somebody and know who it was and not hold any grudge against them. That's how much we transcend and transform. But that has to do with past life memories. All that weird, all that nasty stuff that we don't have to deal with anymore. And it's important to talk about that stuff and to, tell the stories and all that kind of stuff so that we can get beyond it and so that we can transcend from that. You can't transcend from something until you face up to it. You know what I mean? Like the 5 steps of grievance, the first is like denial. You can't deny that any of this stuff is real. And then once you see that it's real and that's how it used to be, you can actually use that to change how we are now. Because all of our politicians nowadays, it's like lying, cheating, and stealing, intrigue, all that kind of stuff. It's all bullshit. It gets in the way of us communicating and making laws that benefit the common guy. And Yeah, well, that's why it's good to remember the past lives. Now, what other, and in the negative stuff, I also have positive past life. I think, see, I've lived a couple lives in the next level, like in heaven, or not, well, what people would call heaven, like another planet, like a utopian planet, where you have, now the kind of memories you're going to have of those kinds of lives have to do with like the home. That's what really, I think, is the next level, is your house, family, your the peace of a wife and child and all that kind of stuff. And I think those are the memories you have and kind of what you strive for. And when a lot of people, if they don't realize they've had a past life like that for a while, they like, they yearn for it. It's like, why can I just, have a like a family never fight, basically have a wife that you never fight because you get along and you're like in a peaceful world and all that kind of stuff. Now what else? Those are basically the. Now, I have done videos of past lives before, and I'll just mention really quickly what I mentioned in those videos. A lot of past life memories can get triggered by music. You know how in these days you have, you listen to a song and you remember the emotional feelings you were feeling when you were listening to that song a lot, and that's all. And even if you're going through a bad period of your time, it still brings up only the positive feelings. The music brings up only the most positive of feelings, and so that's a great way to remember stuff in the past and how you felt. It's just playing music that you used to play at that time. And but the thing about music is, there's a limited number of beats, and so a lot of people copy each other's beats, and then they get accused, you stole my beat. A lot of times they didn't steal their beat, or maybe they heard it in a song, they don't remember where they heard it, and they made the beat. And you just make a beat and it's the same beat as before, or you tap into a beat that exists. And so it's basically the same song recreated that you haven't heard for many, many lives. And so now you're remembering a past life when you hear a certain song. And so, like I remembered living in a castle, like by the sea, really peaceful time, probably Iron Age, like in the BCs of England. And that's when I listened to like Enya, like Enya Watermark and that kind of stuff. When I listened to Deep Breakfast, Rhythm in the Pews, if you YouTube it, it's on YouTube. I would remember like Atlantis, and there was another Deep Breakfast song that I would remember, Atlantis, and you remember like visual stuff too, like lots of plants, lots of fountains, lots of like aqueducts, lots of kind of like Romanesque type architecture, people dressed in togas and in long flowing like silk white robes and stuff. That's basically what like. And I was like, ooh, Atlantis. Ooh, that's Atlantis. What else? What other songs? Remind you of past life. I know there were more. Oh, I can't remember. No, I did have a past life memory once that was really ephemeral. Of like being Genghis Khan or one of the Genghis Khan people in the Genghis Khan army, and their whole trying to open up the Silk Road. They started a new empire, and they're going around, and they're trying to start trade. They know that they're a powerful nation of people, and they want their respect, and they want to open their trade, and so they go to different cities and stuff. And for example, this actually happened. Genghis Khan sent one of his few of his emissaries to the Shah of Iran. This is like, who is it, the Sassanid dynasty or something in the 1200s, to say, hey, we're your emissaries and wanted to trade with you. So he just killed them. So it pissed off Genghis Khan and stuff, and so they went and they killed everybody in the whole city. They like annihilated the whole nation. They killed everybody. And I had like a past life memory of like being in the mentality of the Genghis Khan, like, like if you don't respect us, you don't deserve to exist at all, and we'll just replace you with better people who understand, who have respect for emissaries and stuff. And so, I have a lot of past life memories of Of like, if you have a problem with a certain group of people, the best thing to do is just to kill all of them and then replace them with a new group of people. That's kind of what Julius Caesar did. And well, not Julius Caesar. See, it's funny. This doesn't have anything to do with what I'm talking about, but I saw a video like most evil men in history, and they had one about Julius Caesar, and they had one example of, Avaricum, how he killed 40,000 people, and I was like, dude, you idiots. And just like on the History Channel, dude, these fucking people don't know their history. It wasn't Julius Caesar who killed those people. It was Julius Caesar's troops. You really think Julius Caesar had like all the control over his troops as he could? What happened was they attacked Gergovia, which was this hill fortress. Julius Caesar said, don't do it. As they were attacking, he said, retreat, retreat, retreat. There's too many. You guys are doing an uphill battle. They didn't listen to him. They heard the horns, but they didn't listen to it, and they kept fighting. They lost 700 guys. So then all the Gauls, they regrouped and went to Avaricum, and they fortified Avaricum, and all the troops were like, fuck these people, dude. They're not... See, this was after they had already subdued France, and now they're having another rebellion, and they've had rebellion after rebellion after rebellion. These troops have been there 8 years. They're sick of it. They don't want to fight anymore, and so they were like, fuck it, we're just kill all of you guys. And Julius Caesar had no say in that. He was just the head who would direct the troops. But if the troops decide they're going to kill everybody, and this happened in sieges all the time. If people getting besieged put up a really good fight, by the time that the bad guy or whoever the enemy finally breaches your walls, you're fucked. You're all dead because they're pissed. They're not in any mood to appease you at all because you've been pouring oil on their heads for the last 3 months. So, anyways, that was a beside. So, anyways, I can remember the feeling of just kill everybody, and then we'll replace them with our people, and then we'll have peace. And that's important to talk about because a lot of times when you think about history, you look at people in the past and you go, oh, they were stupid barbarians. Oh, Julius Caesar, bad guy. This guy, bad guy because they killed or whatever. And it's like, no, that's just how the world was like back then. If you were like a monk or whatever, and you wanted to be Mr. Hippie guy, then maybe you should be like a lone tradesman or something, or maybe you should be a druid or and there were always those people who wanted to be the peaceful people. And, back in the Knights Templar were like that. At the very beginning of the Crusades, there were the Knights Templar who was like basically the Red Cross. They were the dudes who go out there and just take care of people and fix them up and sew them up, but they wouldn't fight. And then people started respecting them and not attacking them because they were just like the Red Cross. But then they took advantage of that and they turned into a military order and they started, being violent. And so it's like, okay, you guys, so they all got killed off. And, but like the monks and the religious people, those are the people who could travel amongst, I think there was even a Christian, the Pope sent an emissary to Genghis Khan and hung out with Genghis Khan and was relaying information and stuff, and they didn't fight him. So, if you could always be one of the peaceful guys, then they're not going to fight you, as long as you really are a peaceful guy and you're not putting up a facade of being a peaceful guy, like the Knights Templar were. But so how did I get into that tangent? Oh yeah. The point is that when you talk about the past and people in the past in history, don't like get all fucking high and mighty and be like, oh, they were bad in the past, because if you do that, then you can't get in the mindset of transcending into something that's better. Like now, you can't understand why people are bad. People are bad because they don't their minds aren't open. They're not thinking about every side of the equation, and they're not thinking about the future, and they're not thinking about all the details of what caused the cause and effect and everything. And if you could just get past that and trust somebody that they're a good person, even though they can remember past lives of like violence or whatever, then like, if you can't trust somebody, then you can't move forward as a society. Healthy societies function from people trusting each other. And, that's why, like, in South America, nobody uses credit cards, because if you bought something with a credit card, people just take advantage of each other, and it just doesn't work. So, anyways, it's it just helps you get change and become better. You know, it's people aren't like, oh, but that's just how life is. You have to be like that. You have to be bad and do the intrigue and the political pandering, all that shit, because that's just how it is, and it'll always be like that. It will not always be like that. The world gets better, and so it just helps you motivate to get better. If you can see that you can be better, but you can also at the same time see why people are crazy. You know, like for example, I had an argument with somebody once about like Jeffrey Dahmer, and they're like, "Oh, Jeffrey Dahmer's a monster. He's going to burn in hell for all of eternity." And I was like, Jeffrey Dahmer is a person just like everybody else. He was just like had some mental problem. He had like maybe a chemical imbalance, or he just lost contact with reality. The alcohol had a weird effect on him, and he'd kill people, and he couldn't help it, and he knew it was bad, and you know, and it's like, yeah, lock him up for life. Don't ever put him in a situation where he could kill anybody, but you don't have to like say he's a monster and he's like, you don't understand him and he's going to burn in hell for all of eternity and he never should have existed. And it's like, no, Adolf Hitler one day will be a saint. You know, he was just confused. You know, they're sick. And if you can see, that's how societies progress. You know, back in the past, if somebody was crazy, they were like bad or the demons were in them and you need to lock them up and be mean to them. But now if somebody's crazy or whatever, you just give them the medication and you know, and you help them. You know, understand them. And so that's why it's important to be able to, you know, talk about barbarity and barbarism and all this stuff in the past. And because that's, I mean, if you're talking about past life memories, and you know, and you know what history was all about, there's a lot of ugly, like violent stuff in the past that we would perceive as being ugly and violent, but they would perceive as just being normal or even fun. You know, like wars. And yeah, so. But I mean, as far as like peaceful past life memories, I've been trying to like remember being a woman, and the most closest thing I can get to remember being a woman is like having sex with a man. That's the only thing that I could like, you know, like feeling a dick inside of your pussy and your big wide like hips, and it's like, and like, you know, liking that. I can sort of imagine how that would be, but that's about as much as I can remember being a woman. And I know I've been a woman because I can remember that. It's a past life memory. It's not one of those ephemeral things where you understand it. It's just something that, it's just I guess the thing that's most different about being a woman than a man. But I don't remember anything beyond that, like, you know, like taking care of the kids or whatever. I don't remember any of that. Now I had to remember, I don't, you know, I think it's, if you have like a past life memory and you're like, ooh, it seems like a past life memory, I think it's good to go ahead and just chalk it up as a past life memory. I was in college once and I had this French class, and there's this like really hot girl in there, super, super hot girl. She actually offered to fucking tutor me in French because I wasn't doing very well, and I didn't say anything. I didn't take her up on it. I don't know why. I was just like not, but like, I remember I looked at her and I had this like past life memory of her being my wife in a cave, like in caveman days, and she was my wife, and we're in the back of the cave with a fire. And I just chalked it up to a past life memory, like, oh, that's my wife from like 500,000 years ago. Fancy that. And you know what? She must have had some kind of past life memory about me because she fucking straight up offers to tutor me in French. Anyways, yeah, that was weird. Why didn't I take her up on that? I didn't care at that point. I was like, fuck this shit, man. I'm never going to learn French. They should have let me study Spanish. Anyways, what other past lives? Yeah, just the weird ephemeral stuff like that. But, you know, no matter how ephemeral it is, the memory is, you know, you can bring a little bit of that memory back whenever you want. Not at the same depth, but you can remembering it. Kind of like remembering a dream. Remember having a dream. Yeah, there's another past life memory. Yay! Now, what other kind of past life do I have? Oh yeah, past life of being poor. Yeah. I have memories of I may have even been black at this time. I may have been a slave, but we've all been slaves. We've got lots of memories of being slaves, dude, because slavery is something that, like capturing the enemy and then bringing them back to enslave them, or super classism. Yeah, I have those memories of like where somebody, the angry asshole boss, tells you to do something, and tells you you did it wrong, and but you didn't do it wrong. They just gave you bad instruction. I saw the previews of the movie 12 Years a Slave, and I remember seeing, no, I didn't see the preview. I saw the movie review of it from What the Flick Show, and they had a spot, and the black guy's like, some white guy's like, you fucked up building this house, and he's like, I didn't fuck up. If it's bad instruction, then you can't have a good worker. And yeah, I remember those memories. Like, you gave me the bad instruction. You gotta have a good. You have to give me good instruction if I'm going to do the work right. Because I think what happens is, in patterns of reincarnation, is if you're a really good. Yeah, let me show you the psychology of classism, because that comes really into play in past life memories. Classism. I've had memories of being a really bad lord, and I've had memories of being a really good lord. Now, the memories of being a really bad lord are when I would like owe somebody money, and I thought, and like all my friends, my other lord friends, they didn't pay their peasants what they were supposed to, and they got away with it and stuff. And so I think I'm all badass, and so I would pay my peasants what I owe them because I'm upright and everything, but I wouldn't pay them in a nice way, because I could feel that they resented me because maybe my other lord counterparts were mean to their peasants, and so they were resented by, and I could feel that they resented me, which pissed me off, even though I was treating them right. So I just like throw the money at them, and that would make them angry with me because they think that I owe them money, and also that I need to be nice to them, which is true. I owe money, and they deserve their dignity. But I wouldn't give them the dignity part. I would throw them the money, and then they get pissed off at me, and then I get pissed off at them for getting pissed off at me. And when situations like that happen, the Lord always wins. And I do have memories of like collecting. I do have memories of collecting dues from people. Like as a knight on horseback, going around and collecting the dues. And if somebody doesn't have the money, you kill them. You kill them and you kill all their family to scare all the other guys into paying. Because you got to get the money. Because if you don't give your money to your lord, see, that's how collecting of taxes went. The guy would say, the emperor or whatever, the king would say to his lord, you owe me so and so amount of money. Now, if you want to collect more than that from your guys, that's cool. Get as rich as you can get. I don't give a fuck. But you have to give me my minimum. If you don't give me my minimum, I'm gonna kill you. And so, like your life as a lord, your life depends on getting the money off these peasants. And if these peasants can't give you all their money, you have to make them. You have to kill them. Kill a few of them to make the other ones pay you. And I do have memories of being pretty ruthless about that. Pretty like, not having any qualms whatsoever about killing a family or two in order to get that money. But I was never. I don't have any past life memories of ever being like unfair. Never lying about what I was going to do, unless I was like doing the court intrigue thing, to stab somebody in the back because I know that they're going to do it to me But as far as like following the law, letter of the law between like the relationship with the Lord and the peasant, no, I don't have any memories of like cheating somebody just because I could, maybe like once just see if I can get away with it or whatever. But no, I didn't do that as rule of, as just by, just because that's how I was. No, I'd always follow the letter of the law. Now I remember I had a past life memory of see, this is historians. I don't know if historians remember that or realize this, but historians are really good about putting themselves in the shoes of the people in the past, and then they understand how they thought. Now, the reason that they understand how they thought is because they're having past life memories. They're putting themselves in the shoes, and they're remembering this, that, and they're having emotional memories. Those are past life memories that they're having. If they didn't actually live those lives in the past, they wouldn't be able to relate at all to how they were, and they wouldn't be a good historian. So basically, being a historian and having past life memories is basically the same thing. But yeah, okay. So I had another ephemeral past life memory of like being living in a pueblo, like as a like a Hopi Indian. Because when I was a kid, I had this book called like Child of the Sun God or whatever, and there was this little kid who lived in a he lived with a single mother, so he was an outcast within the village. And then he found out that he's the child of the sun, and that's why he didn't have a mother. And then he came back and he knew, oh, he's special and child of the sun and everything. But I don't remember any past life memories of being like child of the sun. But I had the past life memories of living in the pueblo. I looked at the pyramid, the pictures of the pueblos and the multi-layered pueblos, little like mud huts, and just the peace of being in the sun, playing with my mother, and just living a agrarian hunter-gatherer type of life is really peaceful and with lots of sunshine. But I also have a memory of when I was in high school, I read a book. I think I was in 10th grade. I read a book called music will help you remember past lives, but also reading books will help you remember past lives. I read a book called Black Elk Speaks, and it was the biography of one of the Indians from the Indian Wars. I think he was Crazy Horse's first cousin, and and I had all kinds of past life memories from that, dude, being an Indian. Like running around on horseback and just being free and thinking that being an Indian was more free and better than this white man who is a slave to their square houses, and from the perspective, one interesting thing is if you can have past life memories from the perspective of an Indian as the perspective of the white guy, then you can see both sides. Because the perspective of the Indian was you are, the white guy is, you made the treaty and then the white guy broke it, because the white guy said you're going to have this land for as long as the water runs. And then next thing you know, the next summer, there's more white people coming into your land and mining for gold in your land when the government said that you couldn't. But from the white guy perspective, and I have those past life memories as emotion. Like, these guys, they're like a cancer. They're coming at us. There's nothing we can do to stop them. We must fight. But from the white guy perspective, and I knew this because like last month I listened to George Custer's book, Autobiography, Life on the Plains. It's a great book. It's one of those books that you're stuck to, and once you listen to it, you fucking pay attention to everything. I totally recommend that book. But from the perspective of the white man, you would make these treaties with the Indian tribes, and then one of the bands from that Indian tribe would be like a small group of like kids or whatever who weren't privy to the deal or whatever, and they would go off and they'd kidnap a white woman or whatever, and then the white man would go, oh wait, but those people who kidnapped the white women, they're from the tribe that we made the deal with. Well, they're not honoring their deal. The deal was that if the Indians stop kidnapping white women, then they get to have their land, but they're kidnapping the white women, so fuck them, we'll take all their land to protect the lives of our settlers. And so it was kind of a no-win situation. The only way out of that was to just for the white man to win, take all the Indian land and give them their dole money for a couple of generations and try to get them on their feet. So there really are no bad guys. The best thing is just, if you don't want to be the bad guy, just don't be the aggressor in any respect. Don't be one of those kids on horseback trying to kidnap the white woman, or don't be one of those first settlers encroaching onto the Indian territory. Just don't do it. And if you do it, then prepare for the consequences. I had one of my direct ancestors was killed by Indians back in the 1700s in Virginia. But he was like 70 years old. He was already an old man, but it just kind of comes with the territory. But yeah, I have those kind of past life memories. And the interesting thing about that is, if you go to a psychic, they can tell you past life memories. They can see into your past life. And I think women generally are a little bit better at that than men. Like every time I've seen a psychic, it's always been a woman. And so women can kind of peer into that stuff a little bit better. But yeah, this woman I went to for the past life reading, it was like a Boulder Creek festival a few years ago. And it was funny because I went up and I wanted to do the past life. It was pretty cute, like old young woman. And my mom, dude, comes up all in front of her. He's like, I'm not gonna let you fucking pay some young girl to do a stupid past life meeting. Come on, let's go. And I was like, geez. And I left, and I came back the next day, and I was like, and I told my mom, like, look, I'm gonna do the past life memory thing. Don't fucking stop me. So I went in, and the girl was like scowling at me. She's like, oh, well, are you really gonna do it? Like, she was butthurt by what my mom said the day before, but I was all like, yeah, I'm really gonna do it. And she did it, and she's all, I can see one past life where you were the son of the tribe of the chief of the tribe, and you would ride your horse all day long until your body pretty much gave out, because you just loved riding your horse really, really long time, and that's all she remembered. And then she said, like, another past life, you had your arm blown off in a war, and who knows? I mean, if I had a past life where I was like in Vietnam and I got killed in Vietnam at the age of 18, the chances of me having any memories from that past life, aren't nearly as good as something that contrasts this life a lot. Like living in the Dark Ages and getting hacked apart by somebody in the Dark Ages, or hacking somebody else apart. Those memories you're going to have more because you've had more lives like that. If you're going to have if you had a past life where you were in the Vietnam and you died at 19, the life that you lived up until then was really similar to the life you're living now. And living, and the whole experience of being at the war and dying, it's just so quick that you may not remember it. And so who knows, maybe I did die in World War II getting in my head. Oh, wait, hang on. World War II, I have past life memories. I'm pretty sure I was involved in World War II because whenever I look at footage of it, or the soldiers or the machinery, I feel like when I was living in that world, like, I'm very familiar with it. I'm in the world. I know the feeling of it was a different war. World War II is a different war for Americans and the Brits than other wars. Other wars, there's a whole lot of maybe aggression between the soldiers. But in World War II, like, the people who participated in World War II were normal people. They weren't, they were drafted. They had to go. We sent everybody. And so there was a whole lot of civility within the barracks and on the ships and everything. It was just normal people who didn't want to fight and who weren't violent. And it's that energy that I pick up on in World War II. And I'll just chalk it up to a past life memory, that I was like, we're just doing what we have to do, man, and that kind of stuff. Now, past life memories of being an animal. Dude, if you have past life memories of being an animal, most people on this world would be shocked to understand how similar animals are to humans and how similar they think to us. Like, they're basically human beings who can't talk. They're basically us, even hamsters. Now, there's another request video that maybe I'll do right after this one. Just checking my battery power. Like how to develop psychic powers. And one way is to look into your past lives. But I had a fucking psychic connection with my brother's dog a couple weeks ago. And that's the only psychic connection I can ever remember ever having. But I was literally inside of the dog's mind, the dog's brain. And I knew exactly what the dog was thinking. And when you're that much inside of somebody's mind, like, everything that they know. Like, now you know what it's like to be a dog. And for that second, I knew what it was like to be a dog. And what happened was, I was, and if you can make one of those connections that you can keep and you can keep going back to and basically know sort of how deep it was, then you can apply that to all the other animals and then you being an animal and then knowing what it's like to be an animal. Because I think a lot of past life memories that people have where you think you're a human, you're actually not a human in that past life. You were an animal, because a lot of the same emotions. It's very overlaps a lot. Like the feeling of coming home to your loved one. I came home and I went in the cave and I was hugging my loved one, and it must have been when I was a caveman, or it could have been when you were a hamster. Because they have the same feelings. Yeah. So how this, and I'll include this exact story in my How to Be Psychic video, but I looked at the dog and I put the leash on the dog and I brought the dog, because that's what I do when I go to my mom's house. I don't think my mom ties the dog to the leash out back. It's my brother's dog when my mom's taking care of it. It's a big dog. It's a girl dog, and it's like an Australian sheepdog. And I put the dog outside on the porch, and the dog was attached to the leash. And then my mom said something like, "Put the dog back inside and get her off the leash," because we were gonna like do work out there or something. So I took the leash off the dog and I put it back in the house, and I closed the screen, and then my mom said something like, "Take the dog for a walk. Put the leash on the dog. Take the dog for an actual walk." And so I went to get the leash, and I put the leash on the dog, and the dog is just sitting there with the leash. And I remember for a second I looked at the dog, and it was totally by accident. I had this fucking psychic connection where the dog is going, "What do they want me to do?" Like, they just took me outside, and now they put a leash on me. Like, what do they want me to do? And I was inside the dog's head, and I was like, oh my God, this dog knows that this dog isn't this. I mean, I always knew the dogs were smart, but when you actually feel it, no matter how much you tell yourself that animals are smart and just like humans, you're still going to get a shock when you actually feel how much they're like humans. And the dog was like, I mean, so the dog knew, basically, if you want to know what it's like to be a dog, the dog knew that we're the master, that we tell the dog what to do, that we love them. They know that they're part of the family. And they just want to know what's going on, because they can't understand English and you can't understand bark or whatever. And so, yeah, the dog was just there like, what do they want me to do? Do they want me to go outside? Do they want me to stay here? And the dog just wanted to please. The dog just wanted to give us what they wanted us to give. And anyways, that was a momentous time for me, because now I have a connection to the mind of an animal, and I can, one thing, getting really, oh dude, am I getting into the how to be psychic video? This is a whole nother video, dude, because now I'm about to talk about how I had a communication with a fucking squirrel when I was high once. But yeah, I'm not gonna, that'll be another video, but yeah, psychically connecting with animals will help you get in the past life, because of all the past lives we've had as animals, I mean, look, our souls are really old. Our souls, in my opinion, our souls are as old as the earth. Like our souls basically grew up with the earth. So we're like, you're a fish, you're rodent. I mean, and when you look at the history of the earth is very old. And so you know that you've had way more lives as animals than you had as a human. And so so then you must have lots of memories of being an animal, then shouldn't you? And so yeah, like if you look at an animal and you see a fish, and the fish gets hungry and it eats the food, or it eats another fish, those feelings that they have are the same feelings that you have as a human. You're here, you're hanging out, you're looking over there, and oh, now you're hungry, and ooh, now I'm gonna go eat, and I remember him, I'm not gonna eat him, and that kind of stuff. I mean, if you get in the mind of an animal, it's basically like being a human. Hey, what's up? You're a life form. You're an individual person, and of course, now. But animals I think they're more spiritual than humans. And when I say spiritual, I mean a connection, a mental and emotional connection to the other side. That's when I mean spiritual. And animals have a very strong connection to the other side. Animals know what death is. They're not afraid of death. I mean, their instincts tell them to run away from the thing. But when they get bitten or eaten or whatever, they're not filled with dread. Like, oh no, God hates me. Why me? So life is so unfair or whatever. They're just like, oh. They're like, okay, back to the other side. I remember what the other side's like because I was there like 3 days ago. And in fact, their entire lives, I think they have a connection to the other side. They know what it's like to be a spirit flying over the world of the living and waiting to get thrown back in the world of the living again. They believe in reincarnation more than humans do because they live and die so quickly and so much. The connection between the two sides is a lot thinner. And so yeah, I think animals are more spiritual than humans, and there is a wisdom that animals have that humans don't. This connection to the other side and just the natural order of things. And they're not like, like, why do the big fish get to eat the little fish? Oh, that's not hippie enough for me. They're not thinking that. They're just thinking, I'm hungry. Oh, look at him. Oh, if I get killed, no big deal. Oh, maybe I can be him next life. Maybe I'm that kind of fish next life. And that's what happens. They die, and then they go, I'm done being the orange fish. I want to be the gray fish because the gray fish is bigger. Oh, but that's another thing about past life memories is oh, this brought me back, is that because the great fish might want to be an orange fish again. Like if you're aristocratic and you're and see, like I was saying before, I've been a bad aristocrat and I've been a good aristocrat. Bad aristocrat would be like the cruel one, who may do a little bit more killing than they have to, or be rude and disrespectful. See, I was a bad aristocrat, not in killing people, but in being rude to people, from disdain and from knowing that they don't like me or whatever. And but then you become a good aristocrat, where you can show empathy for the people below you, and you can and you're fair and all that kind of stuff. Once you get to that level, you're like, okay, what's the next step? Is it to be reincarnated on a utopian universe or whatever, or utopian world? No, the next step, because you're not thinking that far ahead when you're between lives. You're just thinking, you're still in the mindset of the Dark Ages. So the next step actually is to become a poor person again. You go through the ranks of being, bad aristocrat to good aristocrat, and then you go back to being poor because you want to know it. Because now you're so empathetic to the poor people, you're actually reborn as a poor person. But now you're one of those poor people who's smart, who understands that if your boss, the rich guy, tells you to build a house and he tells you how to build the house wrong, then you go, wait, you're a bad aristocrat. Because you know the difference between good aristocrat and bad aristocrat, because you were a bad aristocrat and good aristocrat. So you go, wait, dude, you have to give me proper instructions if I'm going to do the job right. You moron, So you're actually, wiser than the other. And the asshole aristocrat was probably like a poor person in the life before that. And so when you can remember past life, the next thing from after remembering past life memories is actually coming up with patterns of reincarnation. I haven't heard anybody talk about this, but there are patterns to reincarnation. Like if you could remember a certain amount of past lives you've had, there's a formula. You know which future life you're going to have. Like moving up through the ranks of a certain social structure. By the time you get to the top, like you're the best of the rich, well, now it's time to be poor again. You move up the ranks of a poor, and now you go over here, and it's like four lives as a teacher, and then 4 lives as a warrior, 4 lives as or maybe not in that order, teacher, leader, that kind of stuff. But you bounce around, and you can start talking about that, but you can't talk about it until you actually believe it. But there's lots of reasons to believe in reincarnation. That's a whole nother video. But now, what other past lives do I remember? Okay, do I have any more that were triggered by books? Well, there was one book called Many Laws, Many Masters, and there's this guy, Brian Weiss, who interviewed some girl, and she had all kinds of past lives of being a man and a boy and a woman and all this kind of stuff. And when you remember that, it'll kind of get you into the world of what it's like to have past lives and remembering past lives, and that could help you. I recommend reading it. It's a good book. But yeah, so basically, I've had past lives in Rome because I can relate with that whole world. I've had past lives in ancient Egypt and all over, dude. We've all had past lives all over. When you die, I think you usually you hang out around your body for 3 days, and then you go off into the other land, the other side, maybe 6 months or something, not that long, and then you're reborn again. You're thrown right back into the system, and you usually reincarnate linearly, meaning 6 months later, you reincarnate 6 months later in this world. And you live, because you're evolving with the earth. You're evolving with our society. We're a society. We're like a big family, and we're all evolving together. And so if we're all going to evolve together, we all naturally would reincarnate sequentially, life after life after life. Even though there's such thing as parallel universes and time travel and all that kind of stuff, and you do occasionally reincarnate basically into the future, like into a utopian world, or maybe the future of your very planet. And I think we all do that at least once. But for the most part, maybe 95% of the time, or more than that, you're going to reincarnate linearly. Because it just helps you organize your thoughts better, and you can remember your past lives and all that kind of stuff, which you want to do. Now, do I have any other past lives of like really bizarre worlds, like being an alien or something? I do not. But it doesn't mean that I haven't had those lives. I just don't have those memories. So what other specific past life memory do I have? Like all the different ways to die. Do I have memories of those? Well, I have strong memories of getting fucked, getting like stabbed by a stiletto, like a trench coat type of a scenario. I have those kinds of memories. I've got memories of getting bum rushed by a bunch of guys and killed that way. I have those memories. And yeah, so that kind of stuff. You know, past life memories, it's not like I remember being this person, you know. It's more like I remember this little snippet from this life, and that's all I know. And so then if I would remember who it was or what age it was, I would just have to put the pieces together and guess, okay, well, it must have been Middle Ages of Europe, you know. Oh, I have lots of past life memories of ancient India, of a utopian world in ancient India that had like aliens coming down. I remember being an alien in ancient India, like being like a leader of a lot of people and teaching people the way that we do things and the way that you're going to do things, and kind of being very instructive and talking to large groups of people, like with a wide speaker and huge masses of people on like in a desert type of a scenario. And of just living in a, you know, an enlightened society. Ancient India is kind of like Atlantis in that, I think it was the same time period, same kinds of people, but they understood astrology, they understood, you know, homeopathic medicine and lots of advanced stuff that doesn't have to do with a war and killing and greed and all that kind of stuff, just simple stuff. And I remember that. I remember, Japan. There is this, I was in 10th grade doing a research paper on Shinto religion, which is the ancient kind of barbaric religion of Japan, like the ancient one with the tree spirits and everything. And I was listening to some like music that sounded Japanese as I was writing the paper. And I had like a past life connection to Japan, like ancient Japan, just how the Japanese are. Past lives memories about a place, it's kind of like just the general gist of how the people were. Ancient Japan, you know, Japanese are very refined. They're very clean. They're very deliberate. They're kind of like cats. They're the cats of the human race. Cats are very deliberate in where they step. They don't no unnecessary movements. You know, conserving energy, elegant. You know, clean. That's that kind of thing. And I just have memories of like being Japanese. You know, being very living that life of. Now I don't know like what social category I was when I was in Japan, but I do remember like that life. It's kind of hard to describe, but because it's just the general energy. But see, that's what you want to tap into if you're going to be empathetic and understand history and all that kind of stuff. It's just tapping into that. But that's a past life, and I've had a few of those. But as far as like psychics, yeah, I've been to a few psychics, and they all say that I have a strong Native American energy to me, and that I've been an Indian in the past life. So somebody said like the last 4 lives I was an Indian, and that's kind of how I perceive it, that I was an Indian in America in the 1800s and stuff, Native American. And yeah, but I've never seen a picture of anybody in the past. See, that's another way to remember past lives. If you see a picture of yourself in a past life, you're going to recognize yourself, and not just you, but other people could recognize you. You'll look similar to how you were in the past. It's not all about genetics. That's why siblings don't always look the same, even though their genetics are the same, or even, you know, twins and stuff. Yeah. What other past lives? What other like archetypes of people are there? Like the medicine man, the druid, you know, like the monk, the priest, the peaceful person. I have memories of that. Those people are the most advanced. Historically, I think that's why they're given the most honor in society. You know, they're given the most respect and everything. The people strive to be those people, and the people who say those things, those are the people who are remembered. Jesus. He said the hippie stuff. Better to give to the receive and give to the poor, and make everybody equal, and that communistic type of mentality. People, those are the most advanced people. Those people who just don't want to, who can see the other side. They're probably the soul time travelers who know that it's peace and the world. It's better to be peaceful and stuff, and so they get into the job of being, like a monk or whatever. Small scale, not like political, like Cardinal Wolsey or whatever. That's straight up politics. But yeah, those I can have memories of that. So anyways, if you want to have past life memories, you just have to open your mind, and you have to try. You have to try to have them. You have to empathize with it, and you have to believe that, if you have something that you have like an empathetic relationship, psychic connection to something in the past, it's better for you, I think, to just automatically assume that's a past life memory. Because if you block it out as, oh, that's just like complex DNA remembrance or whatever, or that's just interesting, then you're not inviting to have more experiences like that. So it's better just go ahead and believe that it was a past life memory, or your past lives contributed to giving you that knowledge. And if you actually believe in reincarnation, it's easy to have those beliefs. So yeah, I think the first thing is to believe in reincarnation, and then you can start having those past life memories, man. But that's about all I remember. It's just short snippets of situations. That's what you're going to remember. What's appropriate to you at this moment in time. That's why it's good to be a well-rounded person and to think lots of different things, because then you're going to be the talent pool is bigger. The more you're going to have more thoughts and more memories and more this and more that. And, it doesn't mean you have to like burn out your brain, like thinking about it and sticking to those thoughts, but just let them pass by you, all the information, listen to your audiobook every day. And, and then little piece of information is just going to stick to you. And you go, oh, wow, that's interesting. That's kind of like a past life memory. Just whatever is appropriate to you. But, if you open your mind and you make any kind of information appropriate, you don't have a TMI fucking fear, too much information phobia, then you're going to be at an advantage to those closed-minded people as far as understanding the bigger picture. Oh, maybe I'll just leave it at that. Okay, peace out.